Good morning, comrades. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the Nürburgring. Welcome to a pretty special video because last week I published the aftermath video of our Cayman GTS crash where I showed the damage, I showed the costs, and then an obvious question came from quite a lot of people like, oh my god, you don't have insurance. And some things are like, I would say actually quite concerning, like there could be like obvious questions when you out of curiosity, but you could see that certain people are actually like, there is an assumption of absolutely zero liability in life, assumption that even if you are insured, which we are in which case, that you don't have to be liable of anything, that you have absolutely no responsibility over whatsoever. So today's topic are actually track insurances, or more in particular, since this channel is about the Nürburgring, the rental cars insurance, but also the normal cars insurance, how they are insured on the track. So first of all, are Apex cars insured?
Every single one of them. In fact, the Apex cars are insured, be it the taxis. In fact, the GT2 is registered and insured as a taxi with a chauffeur. So what it means is that if a customer got in the car and were to have an accident, it wouldn't be covered. But if it's operating as a taxi and something were to happen, it has full coverage. Now, since we're talking about insurance, what does insurance cover? It covers accidents. It's very known, very public information that we've had 2 incidents with taxis before, one of them with this car and one of them with the McLaren. And between those 2 crashes, we are well over a 6-figure sum. And neither of those crashes did I claim on the insurance. Both of those crashes, Apex or myself, depending on the position of how much money Apex had at the time and everything like that, paid for those incidences. And the reason is that when you get insurance on the Nürburgring, if you go around the actual Nürburgring communities and you look on Facebook and all these different pages where people talk about insurance and stuff like that, they will say, where do you insure your car? I need insurance for my car on the Nürburgring. My insurance company said I will not cover the Nürburgring. It's exclusively written out of the insurance policy. How did you get your cars insured? And that's a question that we get a lot.
Yeah.
So if you have insurance and you continually make claims on your insurance for things like customers crashing your cars or taxis crashing your cars, eventually your insurance company is going to say, wait a minute, we're a business, this makes no sense. So on the taxis, I can tell you that our costs for damages has been higher than what we've paid for insurances on the cars. So if I were to have claimed everything on the insurance companies, they might have said, wait a minute, this isn't good business, right? So that may not make sense for them to go with, and they may say, look, we're going to drop you from the insurance. But where the insurance is very important to me is for liability, third party. If something were to happen and other cars were to get damaged, somebody were to get hurt or things like that, that's where the insurance all of a sudden becomes very important.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of cases where people get into trouble on a track, or even, well, mostly we're talking track insurance here, and then they claim it, and after which the insurance would say like, okay, well, here is your money, if it's is according to the contract, because sometimes you are not covered on the track, and people assume that they are, which is going to be another topic. Then they say, okay, here's your money, and then we're done with you. There are, moreover, again, if you are not covered on the track and you're still driving on the track with the assumption, without knowledge that you are not going to be covered, and then your insurance might see it by either you posting pictures of you on track, of your car, and this is why quite often people are taping off their license plates, not because of privacy, some people because of privacy, but also quite often they just don't want their insurance to find out, because when they do either the Google image search check and they see that the car is being tracked, insurance might say, we're not insuring you, or there are actually public cases known where insurance says like, hey, you're taking it on track, we don't want anything to do with you, we're actually dropping you already right now, even if you're not planning on claiming anything. So it's a very delicate topic when it comes to that. So maybe we can talk about how our insurances over rental cars work.
Yeah, so this is, again, when I mentioned a moment ago that it can be difficult for a private person to get insurance on their car that covers the Nürburgring, more and more insurance companies are dropping the Nürburgring from their coverage. Then you can safely assume that it's even more difficult for a rental car company to get insurance for their cars. So what we have on our cars, and it's was a very well thought out process, is that we only have liability for our cars on the Nürburgring. That means if somebody crashes our car, only other vehicles are protected by this damage, okay? Or by this insurance, I should say, I'm sorry. So we have obviously a lower insurance rate because of this, but we also have a lot of liability. If somebody crashes a car and runs, we're paying completely out of pocket for this. And we have a simple solution in place where we have an excess that's set that your maximum that you could have to pay if you crash the car is roughly 50% of the car's value. And the idea behind that is that 50% of the car's value can be paid by the customer, and then we can scrap the car to recover hopefully as much of the other 50% as possible. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
We don't always cover all of our costs, and in most cases we don't cover all of our costs. The Cayman video, which were really prompted this, I will be very clear and say that we lost about 13,000 euro on the crash, the paying the barrier costs, which were 5,000 euro, then selling the car off afterwards. We're about at a 13,000 loss if we want to now replace the car with a light car. So we still didn't come out ahead. And I mean, I would love to say, yeah, we came out ahead after the whole thing, but we didn't. But that's our business model is set up in a way that we only have the liability coverage on the cars on the Nürburgring.
Yeah, exactly. And here's a quick comment I want to make. This is not only the way we operate. Pretty much every Nürburgring rental company work with these excess or liability.
They work with excess. I can't say if they have full coverage or not.
Exactly.
You know, there's somebody could take full coverage, make the customer pay, and then turn it into the insurance. And I don't have any proof that anybody's doing that, but I can tell you it would be very easy to do. But
it's just before I want, because there were some finger pointing like, oh my God, this is what you do. And there are some people saying like, hey, this is how Nürburgring rental companies, not only Apex, make money by insurances. Well, but okay, let's assume you're gonna get like 80 to 90% of the value of the day value of the car back, but you're not gonna get your operational loss covered. You're not gonna get your time loss covered, and lots of other things. So there's always a lots of loss more than just a loss of asset when you're talking about the car value that you lost.
Usually, you know, when the Yaris got crashed, it was out waiting on parts for a month.
Yeah.
Right? We definitely lost more money in business from the car not operating than we did if you were to calculate the actual cost of the damage. Now, are we very lucky that you guys are for the most part very loyal to Apex and very good customers and said, yeah, I can't book that car all of June. You know what, I'll see you in July. So that's a very hard one to calculate down to a finite number. But the reality is that at that moment you lost turnover. It may have been picked up later in the year, but at that moment we lost a car damage and the turnover that month when we probably could have needed it coming out of COVID and different things like that.
Yeah, so long story short, when it comes to our insurances, this is how it works. And then you might ask the question, so why do you have it then at all? Is it like not better not to insure the car? Well, legally we have to have the cars insured. We have to, and we've met that obligation with our liability insurance for the Nürburgring. So we have the liability, so third parties, other vehicles are covered, but we need to have insurance to register the car. We need to have insurance to drive the car. And I mean, you're quite frankly irresponsible if you don't have some sort of insurance when you're going out on the road. I know a lot of people do make it here with questionable insurance situations, but that's their own choice, I guess. Yeah, exactly. And as mentioned in the very beginning of this video, is that it's quite tricky to use it, because if you use it, you might instantly lose it, and that's the harsh reality of it. And this is why we hopefully will not have to use it ever again, because you might never know when someone crashes into a Bugatti and
and you want that liability.
You might have like an injury related to that, so you might want to have that. Now, the final part of the video I want to dedicate to also people who've been saying like, oh, I'm not going to rent a car, I'm going to take my own car out. Read your contract. You are most likely not insured on the track. And again, when it comes to Nürburgring and Nordschleife, Touristenfahrt and Nürburgring public sessions, people say like this is a public road, and you might get away in the past would say like, oh, this is a public road, so my insurance will cover it. At this point, what you need to look at is if your insurance is not excluding the Nürburgring,
Right.
then you are covered. It will never officially include that. And sometimes you actually asking them if it's included, it might get excluded. So when it comes to that, it's a lot safer to take out the rental car for all the reasons, because if you might need an actual insurance, you might have it on the rental car and not on your private car.
I think another thing is that we have to find a balance, and that balance lies somewhere in between. You hear about crashes. You don't hear about every successful lap that goes around the track. You know, when we share, the Cayman has a big accident, you don't get to see the hundreds and thousands of people that have been out before that had zero incidents at all, that just came off, had a great time on the track, and went home, and that's it. And these situations are very few and far between where this type of thing happens. And a lot of it just takes being calm and understanding. And one other thing that we do at Apex a lot is we talk people down out of cars. So many people come and say, I want the most horsepower, I want the fastest, when in reality what they need to do is learn how to drive on the track. They need to learn how to be smooth, how to keep a balance in the car, and not necessarily just jump to the fastest car. To go home and tell your friends, I just drove the Nürburgring in a 700 horsepower car, but I got passed by this Golf, right? That's not really that cool. What's cool is to say, I learned how to drive a Golf, and now I'm passing supercars. That's what's really cool on the Nürburgring. There's one thing I'd like to add to it. Somebody said, why don't you take external track day insurance? Okay? Well, what a lot of people think is this sounds fantastic. External track day insurance costs, depending on the car, if you were to take it for the Cayman, would cost around 1,000 to 1,200 euro. I've gotten quotes, and I've got some friends that sent me over some quotes on some BMW M3s as well. It costs around 1,200 for the day. Okay, it only insures half of the value of the car, minus a deductible, which on the car that I had in question, which was worth 80,000 euro, was only a 40,000 insurance minus a 14,000 deductible, so the insurance only covered 26,000 of it. It cost them 1,200. They were going to pay another 14,000, so they were going to be 15,500 into it anyways on the accident. So those are very much geared towards limiting their, would you say, liability as well. So that's something that we have to keep very close in mind, is that those track day insurances are very expensive. I have a lot of friends in the States that run many track days, and most of them self-insure because they've calculated that by the time they run all of these events and carry the risk, they might as well just bought themselves a new car. And that's the trick with these insurances. Unfortunately, the Nürburgring is called the Green Hill. It's referred to as the most exciting track in the world because it's probably the most dangerous track in the world. It's something that we all want to go do. We have the option to sit at home, play video games with no risk. We can go to Disneyland and ride, on a roller coaster with very little risk. We can take a taxi lap with very little risk. But when we want to get behind the wheel of something on the Nürburgring, we have to understand there's some type of liability. Do everything you can to make sure that liability is limited. Take a car that's within your skill set. Practice, learn, understand, ask questions. Take the time to learn the fundamentals of driving, etc., before coming here, even if it's just watching a video, so that you understand that smooth, and that's it. The incidents that Misha had in both cases recently were from a case where you should be driving, and I'm holding the throttle right now at 1900 RPM, and somebody lifted and the car spun. That's just in fact, on my channel, there's a lot of videos talking about that. Balancing a car.
When are you making a video on your channel?
We'll do this here right now. We'll see. If McLaren goes and sets a new lap record, we'll do a video.
Now, this is what we wanted to explain to you, how insurances work. And again, it's partially explaining how they work here at Apex on Track, but also like the comments that I saw, they were like concerning for people like you might go out and like even your health insurance. If I go to the dentist and I have health coverage, they say, well, your dental plan is not covered. You need to pay it by yourself. I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm going to go to another insurance. Read the fine print. That's very important. Where you go on track or in life or whatever. That's the most important message of this video. Don't assume just things that you can go and cause some...
Insurance is tricky. Insurance is tricky, and everything you do isn't covered by insurance, or it's not somebody else's responsibility to buy insurance for everything that you do.
Yeah.
Like I said, we have to run a business, and that business requires being able to get at minimum liability insurance for the Nürburgring. If we make claims on taxis and we make claims on rental cars, and I start making claims on private cars, then eventually the insurance company is going to say, wait a minute, the Nürburgring is too risky for us. A company like Apex could cause an entire insurance company to say no more Nürburgring.
Yeah.
And that's not something that would be good to the rest of the enthusiasts around the Nürburgring. So
Exactly. So that's it. I think we're gonna go and drive the track.
I want to go do some laps.
Yeah, good. Well, hope you guys enjoyed, or most importantly, learned something from this video. Don't say it that often. So see you next time on the track. Bye bye.
Bye, guys.